They said the earth at Blackridge never slept. Long after the Civil War ended, after the chains were gone and the manor fell silent, the soil kept breathing, warm, rich, and restless. Crops grew where no rain fell. The locals whispered that the ground still remembered the taste of those who once worked it. When travelers passed by the ruins, their lanterns dimmed. And if they lingered too long, they claimed to hear something stirring beneath their boots, something that had never stopped feeding. In 1912, a historian named Elias Crane purchased what remained of Blackridge Plantation. He came with good intentions, to write a book about the Old South's forgotten estates. But the moment he arrived, he found the air heavy and sweet, like rotting fruit. The locals avoided his eyes. The innkeeper refused to say the name Blackridge aloud. At night, Elias recorded strange vibrations in his journal, a deep hum that made the walls tremble. He believed it was the sound of memory itself, trapped in the timbers. The manor's parlor was filled with portraits, each depicting a member of the Blackridge family. Yet one painting had been slashed, a woman, immense in frame, with a blank, sorrowful expression. Elias found the fragments in the attic, the face torn away, the background stained dark. Beneath the canvas was a faint signature, not of the artist, but of a name carved into the wood: Mercy Blackridge. The journal suggested she was the last of the bloodline, the one who fed the fields. At night, Elias heard a rustling beneath the floorboards. He assumed rats, until he noticed the rhythm, like breath. Then, the whispering began. Voices rising from the planks, whispering the same word again and again: mercy. The next morning, he found footprints in the dust, bare, heavy, and fresh. He traced them to a locked door in the basement hall. The hinges were sealed with wax. Someone, long ago, had tried to keep something inside. Elias visited the nearby town of Fairvale, hoping for records. But every mention of Blackridge brought silence. An old priest warned him. The Blackridge family gave the land more than it ever gave them. A farmer spat on the floor. The soil ate them whole. In the county archives, every reference to the plantation's last 50 years had been ripped out, leaving behind only soot along the torn edges. Elias began to understand. The horror was not forgotten by accident. It was buried. He discovered an old leather-bound diary in the library, its pages warped with moisture. The entries were written in an elegant but trembling hand. The harvest grows fuller, but the price grows heavier, one line read. Father says the fields must be fed before dawn. Another page described Mercy's sacrifice. No detail, only repetition. She must be the vessel. Elias realized the family's prosperity was tied to a ritual, one they had performed for generations, believing it kept the plantation alive. Elias walked out to the farthest field at sunset. The air there vibrated faintly, like the hum of a hidden machine. In the center stood a circle of stones, blackened by age. Beneath them, he found animal bones, arranged carefully, but they were too large to be livestock. As he dug deeper, the soil grew warm, pulsing faintly, as if it had a heartbeat. He dropped his lantern. The flame flickered and went out, leaving him in silence until he heard a single, slow inhale from below. That night, Elias awoke to the sound of singing, a child's lullaby echoing through the empty halls. He followed the voice to the parlor. The damaged portrait had been restored, though he had never touched it. Mercy Blackridge's eyes now watched him from the wall. Her mouth was slightly open, as if whispering words no one could hear. He ran to his room and locked the door, but the singing continued, muffled, like someone crooning through the floor. Among the estate papers, Elias found letters written by the plantation's overseer in 1849. He described a ritual of abundance performed each spring when the earth was hungry for memory. He mentioned the mistress, Mercy's mother, who claimed the family's ancestors had made a covenant with the ancient keeper beneath the furrows. Each generation was to offer something of themselves to sustain the land. Those who refused faced the wilting. The overseer's final line read, "I can hear the ground whispering my name." Elias found an old chapel behind the manor, its bell long silent. Inside, the pews were warped, and the altar bore strange etchings, symbols resembling roots and eyes. Beneath the pulpit, he uncovered a sealed hatch. When he opened it, a rush of warm air hit his face, the scent of soil and iron. There were stairs leading down, carved from stone. He descended with his lantern trembling in his hand, each step echoing like a heartbeat. The deeper he went, the warmer it became. The cellar stretched farther than the house above. The walls were lined with roots, pulsing faintly. In the center stood a wooden chair and a large jar filled with dark liquid. Inside the jar floated a lock of black hair. Carved into the chair's armrest were words scorched into the wood. "We feed what fed us." Elias stumbled back, dropping his lantern. It didn't break. It went out, as if smothered by unseen hands. He returned to the parlor, shaken, only to find new photographs scattered across the floor, images that hadn't existed before. They showed the plantation in its prime, men and women working, children smiling, and always, in the background, Mercy, staring directly into the camera. In one photo, she stood in the field circle, surrounded by firelight. In another, she was alone, her hand pressed to the earth. On the back of the final photograph, written in ash, "The field remembers." At midnight, the ground beneath the manor shook violently. Books fell, windows cracked, and a sound like deep breathing filled the air. Elias ran to the front door, but it wouldn't open. Through the window, he saw movement in the fields, figures rising slowly from the soil, not flesh, but outlines of it, like shadows made of dust. They moved in unison, turning toward the house. Elias screamed for them to stop. The air swallowed his voice whole. At dawn, the tremor ceased. The air was heavy, almost sweet again. Elias stepped outside. The fields were untouched, no footprints, no figures, no disturbance. Yet the trees leaned slightly inward, as if bowing. When he looked toward the horizon, the sky shimmered faintly, like heat. A whisper drifted on the wind. "You've been heard." He realized then, he hadn't uncovered the secret. The secret had noticed him. He found the plantation's final ledger in a charred safe. The handwriting was Mercy's. "The harvest continues," it read. "The earth is grateful, but the weight grows heavy." The last line chilled him. "If the soil must remember, so must I." Elias felt the floorboards beneath him flex, as if the house were breathing again, reclaiming what was once its own. 2 townspeople came to check on Elias. They found his notes scattered, his lanterns burnt out, and his recording machine still running, though it had been broken for years. The tape played only a single sound, breathing. Slow, steady, endless. They left and sealed the property again. No one returned. The county filed Elias's disappearance as lost in collapse. But the inspector's report mentioned something strange. The soil where the manor had stood was unusually warm to the touch, as though it retained heat from below. When workers tried to plant grass over it, nothing would grow. They left it bare, a field of black earth that glowed faintly red under the moonlight. A decade later, the land was sold again. New owners claimed the soil produced the most fertile crops they had ever seen. They plowed deep, built new homes, and ignored the humming at night. Children began to sleepwalk, tracing circles in the dirt. The town prospered once more. Fairvale forgot its curse, or pretended to. In 1951, a box labeled EC was found in an old museum archive. Inside, a cracked recorder and a strip of degraded audio. When played, it emitted static, then a faint voice. "Mercy, the soil remembers." The recording ended with 3 seconds of silence, followed by a single heartbeat. No one knows where the box went after that. Today, the ruins of Blackridge lie buried under new foundations. But when droughts come, when the rain stops and the wind dies, the locals say the ground hums again, a slow, living pulse beneath the crops. If you press your ear to the soil, you might hear her name. Mercy Blackridge, the one who fed the fields, and the fields, in turn, never forgot her.